let me deal with this fool, Florida Congressman Byron Donalds. Sunday, he was on ABC This Week, and he was questioned by George Stephanopoulos about Donald Trump's attacks on Vice President Kamala Harris when he spoke to NABJ. I don't use, and let me just be real clear, I don't use words like coon, Uncle Tom, sellout, Oreo. I don't use any of those words. I don't like to use them against black people. I don't allow them in my timeline on social media. But when I sat here and watched this fool, Byron Donalds, embarrass himself, embarrass his family, embarrass his ancestors, and what got me the most is, how your ass gonna do this when your wife white? Your kids ain't no different than Vice President Kamala Harris. Her mama's Indian, her daddy's Jamaican. Last I checked, he black. Now, let me be real clear. There are some white Jamaicans. I've met them. My daddy black. And he sat his Bama ass on ABC and said, this trash.
Former President Trump questioned the vice president's racial identity.
Well, first, George, in Chicago, he was responding to a question from, I believe, Rachel Scott. Like, this is really a phony controversy. I don't really care. Most people don't. But if we're going to be accurate, when Kamala Harris went into the United States Senate, it was AP that said she was the first Indian American United States senator. It was actually played up a lot when she came into the Senate. Now she's running nationally. Obviously, the campaign has shifted. They're talking much more about her father's heritage and her black identity. It doesn't really matter. The president mentioned it. What he also talks about far more frequently is the fact that Kamala Harris is the person who created this massive inflation, which is destroying black families, white families, Hispanic families. It's her failure as border czar that has left our southern border wide open, more than 10 million illegal immigrants coming into our country, record fentanyl coming into our country, which has killed more Americans than at any other point in the history of our country with respect specifically to fentanyl. And the fact that she and Joe Biden have unleashed one of the worst foreign policies in the history of our country that has us on the verge of World War III. That is Kamala Harris's record. President Trump talks about that frequently, but yes, he did mention it in Chicago in response to a question from Rachel Scott.
And you just repeated the slur again. If it doesn't matter, why do you all keep questioning her identity? She's always identified as a black woman. She is biracial. She has a Jamaican father and an Indian mother. She's always identified as both. Why are you questioning that?
Well, George, first of all, this is something that's actually a conversation throughout social media right now. There were a lot of people who are trying to figure this out. But again, that's a side issue, not the main issue. The main issue.
Sir, 1 second. You just did it. You just did it again.
Of the United States.
Why do you insist on questioning her racial identity?
You want me to talk?
I want you to answer my question.
Yelling at George, now that you're done yelling at me, let me answer. He talked about it on the stage yesterday in Atlanta for 2 minutes? He spent more than 35, 40 minutes going after her record, talking about how radical of a senator that she was. She was the most liberal senator in the United States, in the United States Senate. That is a fact. He talked about the job that she did as vice president of the United States, a job, I will add, which has been a failure for the American people. I know you guys like to glom on to this that he talks about in jest or in a serious manner for about a minute or so, but what you do not cover is the litany of failures of Kamala Harris. That's what you're not covering, George.
So questioning somebody's racial identity for a couple minutes is okay?
George, I'm going to tell you again, he brought it up. AP is the one that wrote the headline when she first came in to the United States Senate. Didn't talk about her being black, talked about her being the first Indian American senator. AP brought that up. I mean, George, we could have this conversation for the entire segment, but none of this matters to the American people. What matters to the American people is, are we going to have the same policies of the Biden-Harris administration that has been destructive of the American people, or are we going to have the policies of the Trump administration, which put America first, had low inflation, prosperous Americans, no matter your race, no matter your color, no matter your creed, and a foreign policy that kept America safe? Those are the facts that truly matter, because this issue is going to come and go. The lives of the American people is what's going to remain, and that's what matters more than anything else.
If it doesn't matter, I don't understand why you keep on repeating it, why the president keeps on repeating it, why those introducing the president yesterday
George,
keep on
actually,
repeating
I'm
it.
not the one who keeps repeating it. George, you're the one that's bringing it up now. That's you.
You've done
I
it,
understand why
sir.
you've done it up.
You've done it
Because
3 times. Every single answer
George,
you gave me. Now let me finish, sir.
George,
Every single answer you gave, you repeated the slur.
Asked me, George. That's why I'm pushing back on you now. George, you asked me the question 3 times. I responded, but
and every single time you repeat the slur. That is exactly my point. You simply can't say that it's wrong.
George, so then what you're saying, and I want to get off this topic because it's not the only thing that's going on. But George, now you're saying that AP is the one that slurred Kamala Harris, because those are the facts. You can go to the internet and look at the clips, George, if you want to, or we can talk about this now. I prefer to talk about the future of our country, because the American people are struggling. The American people do need serious policy decisions to be made, and they need serious leadership on the world stage. Kamala Harris has not proven that she can do that. Donald J. Trump has proven that he can do that.
AP did not say that Kamala Harris is not black. She is biracial. She is Indian. She is black. You continue to repeat the fact that you continue to repeat the slur. I don't understand why you and the president do it, but it's clear you're not going to say that it's wrong. And you've now established that for our audience. Trump also said at the convention that he would pardon January 6 rioters.
Everybody look for themselves. Let's move on.
I've already said that. Go ahead.
Internet, everybody. Let's move on. There we go.
So, go on and repeat the slurs again.
Now, see, I didn't want to have to play all of that. But I wanted y'all to see for yourself what happens when you have these asshole MAGA black Republicans. I know black Republicans. I've known black Republicans for decades. And I know real black Republicans who are embarrassed by stepping fetchits like Byron Donalds. They are embarrassed by the minstrel show. They are embarrassed when people like him defend everything Trump does. If the late Chris Metzler was here, he would be blasting a Byron Donalds. When I think about other black Republicans over the decades, they shake their head when they see fools like that. Donalds would do anything to kiss Donald Trump's ass. And yes, Byron Donalds, on ABC this week, you look like Stephen from Django. You sounded like Stephen from Django. All you had to do, a black man married to a white woman with biracial kids, is say, Vice President Kamala Harris is biracial. She's black and she's Indian. All he had to say was, Trump shouldn't have went there. But see, when you got no guts, when you got no morals, no values, no principles, no ethics, when you got no black consciousness, then you'll sit there and say that crap because maybe Byron Donalds, what you need is what we saw when y'all were trying to pick a Speaker of the House. Maybe you need them to pat you on the back of your head and say, good job, boy. That's the kind of stuff that I find to be despicable. You don't even have the decency to check that racist white man, because you would do and say anything to be in his good grace. And that, to me, is even more embarrassing. So when you walk your ass around Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, let's see if you have that same energy. Mark Thompson?
Yeah. Like, hey, I looked up when you said step and fetch it. I wholeheartedly agree. And, I don't mind name calling, but I'm going to refrain out of respect for your show. It's really incredible. This is 2024. Who does not have biracial or multiracial relatives in their family today? Who doesn't? And what is J.V. Vance and his wife? What are they? What's going on there? So for people to keep repeating these slurs, for Byron Donalds to keep, you're right. I mean, he has a white wife. He's, I don't know whether they have children or not, but if they do, they are building a multiracial family. He mentioned something though, folks. So I want to bring this back home.
He got biracial kids.
That's right. That's what I thought. I wasn't sure. But I want to bring this back home, Lauren and Greg, too. And you all know this. Online, right now, you got black accounts. I'm putting that in air quotes because we don't always know who, I don't know why that's doing that. We don't always know who some of those people are. I did my
because Mark, that's the new Mark, that's the new iPhone feature. When you do that, it creates that celebration balloon effect. But go ahead.
But I'm not on my iPhone, so I don't know why it's doing that. But anyway,
I'm just trying to tell you that's what happens.
But listen, I'm gonna restart. But listen, let me just say this: on some of these accounts, social media, you have black folk questioning her identity as well. Okay, raising questions about who her parents were, whether her father is actually black, even though he's from Jamaica. There's even one popular account got millions of views with this dude saying that her father's not a real Jamaican, that he's actually Indian and from India himself. My camera's back up control. He's actually from India himself, and he immigrated to Jamaica. Like, where y'all getting this stuff from? So there is this obsession with her, trying to other her. We got to cut that out. We really, really have to do that. Byron Donalds is a clown. We know that. And again, he's following the Trump script. This is the appeal to the lowest common denominator. And, I have to wonder how many of these so-called hillbillies, as J.V. Vance would call them, themselves, like he does, have a woman of color in their lives.
Well, Lord, here's the whole deal. When he goes,
a lot of
there's a discussion on social media. I'm like, dude, you're a member of Congress. I mean, get a grip. So, I mean, again, all he's doing is just kissing Trump's ass at all turns. He doesn't even have the guts to say, he shouldn't have said it. This is not a conversation. My kids are biracial. Move on.
Right.
Yeah, well, he's not going to say that. He's never going to say that. Story of Byron Donalds, and the saddest thing really about Byron Donalds is that he knows exactly what he's doing. It's completely intentional. It's not accidental. It's not because he's stupid. It's not because he doesn't know what he's doing. He knows exactly what he's doing. And for whatever reason, he has decided to be the consensual manservant of Donald Trump. He's decided to be the Trump chaperone, the Negro by the door of white supremacy, whatever the heck you want to call it. He's intentionally wanting that role. That is the role that he wants to have. I think he suspects that he might get something out of it, maybe a cabinet position. But he's trying to show more than anything that he is the loyal manservant. That is the role that Byron Donalds, that's what we're watching in contemporary times. You know, we're watching effectively an archetype from the 1800s. And that's sad. It's sad that somebody black in this country thinks they have to stoop that low to anybody, white or black, in this way. But it's particularly humiliating to watch in the context that we live in today, because there really is no reason for it. I mean, there really is no reason for any of that. Byron Donalds has come a long way. He had a criminal record and ends up as a member of Congress. And yet, for some reason, he feels like this is what he has to do to succeed. And even dumber, he thinks that nobody else can figure out what this is. But, you know, I got to say, the fact that he won't tip the bit is really weird to watch, very strange and emasculating and odd. I mean, I just can't understand it. I mean, most people, a lot of these black Republicans are really good at understanding when you get to that point where your personhood and manhood and self-respect is slipping away. So you keep your mouth shut. You may not want to say publicly that you're in disagreement with Donald Trump, but you keep your mouth shut. And for whatever reason, Byron Donalds is intentionally doing this. And it is something to watch. I mean, I just can't believe it. It just makes me think about the old movies before Step and Fetch It. And even those guys probably were aware of their position. But to be doing this in contemporary times is just unbelievably embarrassing.
We sick. Yeah, we sick indeed. Lauren Victoria Burke. I'm gonna tell you've had some compelling descriptors over the years, but I promise you, consensual manservant has so many different ways. I think that is my favorite way to describe the congressman from Florida. Consensual manservant. I mean, there are any number of directions we could take that. I'm just gonna let that. Like, that's a beautiful thing. You know, and I think you're absolutely right, Lauren. Byron Donalds is after certainly one thing, regardless of whatever else he's about. He's about his wife, Erica. Erica Donalds wants to be a Secretary of Education, probably, in this country. This is a clown who was on the board of Moms for Liberty, on her local school board in Florida, who hitched her star to the wagon of DeSantis in Florida until she switched over to John Trump. And she is dangerous. She's been involved in everything from Hillsdale College and Moms for Liberty to all kind of right-wing charter school networks in Florida, where she has siphoned off public dollars with the help of her punk-ass husband, who, when he was in the Florida legislature, helped push through legislation that his family, through his wife and the charter schools they run, directly benefited from. I think this is as much about Erica Donalds, the woman of Byron Donalds' dreams, than it is about Byron. Unfortunately, of course, Byron Donalds, who passed himself off as a fake Jamaican for 15 seconds at Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University in Tallahassee, coming down from New York. Unfortunately, Byron Donalds, who said that, the black family was more intact prior to the end of segregation, which, of course, would have meant, if we had gone back to those days, that he could not marry the woman of his dreams. And by the way, shout out to Tim Scott for marrying the woman of his dreams a couple of days ago. But Byron Donalds is a means to an end. He is a consensual manservant, to quote Lauren Victoria Burke, whether it be to his wife Erica or to Donald Trump.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.